name's Nathan Gold, and I want to start on time, but they've asked me to wait 5 minutes. So we're just going to wait 5 more minutes, but at least we started on time.
Eric Harrison, I'm the Innovation Collaboration Principal for MGMWERX. Thank you all for being here today. Raise your hand if you've heard about this event on the radio. You read about it somewhere? 1, 2, just okay, a couple hands. Who heard about it word of mouth? Okay, so how did the rest of you guys hear about it? Email. Okay, good. Well, hey, this is great. I'm really glad that you guys are here today. So, while the other people are coming in, and I'm keeping from tripping over this, let me tell you a little bit about MGMWERX. Most people don't even know we're there. If you walk down Commerce and you see where it says Chamber of Commerce, that's our building right there. That's 41 Commerce Street. And we've been in there for about 6 or 7 months. And I'm going to make it really simple to tell you what we do. What we do is we help people solve problems. We help the military solve problems. And we're not just stuck on helping the military. We're helping innovate, collaborate, and find solutions much faster than it's ever been done before. An example is last week I was in Las Vegas at another one of our sister organizations. There was a problem that the Air Force brought in, and in 4 days we went from identifying what the problem was to having a prototype ready to go to the Air Force for them to say, yeah, let's go. 4 days. 4 days. When did that ever happen? Never, ever. The best part was the Army has the same problem. So the Army was there with us. So we killed 2 birds with 1 stone. So it was really a great deal. And so another example would be that who here has ever homeschooled or homeschooled? Anybody homeschool or okay, great. Well, my homeschool, my wife homeschooled. I was the principal. And it was really great. But I will tell you that another one of our sister organizations, Softworks in Tampa, they put out a challenge because a lot of the special forces men and women, when they go into certain situations, they jump with their military working dogs. But they couldn't go over 10,000 people with the military working dog because there was no oxygen system. They put out a challenge. It was a homeschool girl. They came up with the answer that won the challenge, and now they're able to jump with dogs with an oxygen system. Right. I mean, wow, that's exactly correct. That is wild to me. Because it was a kid that had the idea. So what does that mean to you? What that means to you is that, well, like I said, any idea is a good idea. Now I take that back. But if you have ideas, you have startups, you know, people with startups who have some ideas, we need to be talking. We need to be collaborating. We need to be discussing what you can do and how you can maybe get your foot in the door with helping the military, or how maybe the military can get its foot in the door with helping you. That's part of what MGMWERX and our sister organizations are all about. Okay, so but you're not here to hear from me, but you are here to hear this. On Tuesday night, we're having our pitch night. Our pitch night is going to be where?
Warehouse.
Where is that?
Warehouse.
Somebody tell me.
Warehouse.
We're going to be at the warehouse. Okay, I was hoping somebody here knew because they read it or seen it or something like that. We're going to be at the warehouse. You guys know where the warehouse is?
Next door.
Where's the warehouse for?
Next door.
So it's going to be next door. The physical address is 130 Commerce, which is literally right next door. So look forward to seeing you there.
130 Commerce Street. So we actually have the flyers and we have the handout cards. Okay, so please, before you leave today, make sure you get a handout card. Pitch night. So what it's going to be is there's going to be 5 individuals that are coming from Air University. They're going to be pitching their ideas that they basically did research papers on over the course of their studies this past year. I will tell you, you're thinking, oh yeah, that doesn't sound very exciting. Well, let me tell you, so we were together with these guys today, and I was just sitting there blown away by the ideas that these folks have and the things that they want to do. And they're not big, lofty ideas. These are things that are common sense. And you're like, why didn't I think of that? And they're going to be out there pitching their ideas, and somebody will be a winner. But you know what? Here's the best part about this whole collaboration piece, is that just because you win first place last night, it was in Tallahassee, and it was business people pitching. First place got $15,000, second place got $10,000, but let me tell you, every one of those pitches was amazing and ideas that can be taken by anybody else and used. So everybody, I know it sounds cliche in this environment, everybody's a winner. You really can be a winner by going out there and pitching your ideas. If you don't pitch your ideas, you're never going to get the traction on anything. So, with that said, I want to go ahead and introduce the real reason why you're here, and it's certainly not me. All right, so this is Nathan over here on the right-hand side. I determined today, in 5 minutes or less, when I picked him up at the airport, Nathan and I were riding together. Nathan's from California. And I asked him what town he was from. He said he lives in Fremont. And I said, oh my gosh, I grew up in Fremont. California? Who comes from California? Lives in Alabama. Yay! You escaped. Good for you. Me too. You stayed out. Okay, Nathan hails from the San Francisco Bay Area, which is Fremont in this case, and travels the world coaching people on how to prepare for high-stakes speaking opportunities and how to harness speaking anxiety. TED Talks, y'all. Y'all familiar with TED Talks? He coaches folks on TED Talks. He does things through keynotes, interactive workshops, live streaming, one-on-one sessions, both personal and online. We did an online one with a guy in Texas today, so I saw him do that too. Nathan has personally delivered thousands of presentations and thousands of hours of coaching. Wall Street Journal calls him an elevator pitch expert. I know the military is all about the elevator pitch. He's an industry fellow at UC Berkeley and Hong Kong Baptist University, guest lecturer working in entrepreneurship, and is featured on the Costume Founders School and is a published author. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Nathan.
All right, so, sorry.
She's taken.
She's taken, no. I'll get into that later. So I want to maximize our time together here. We have until 4 o'clock. That's what I'm told. I'll be done before 4. So if you have plans after 4 o'clock, I won't run late. I promise you that right now. And I want to maximize our time together. So I'm going to cut out all the fluff, go straight for the solid nourishment. Is that okay? With that in mind, you can have a copy of this presentation before you leave the door. So it's already online. I'll give you the address of where it is online. You don't have to even take pictures of what you see here unless you want to. But it's already online, so you'll walk out with the link to this presentation. Please feel free to ask questions anytime. Oh, do you want to pull it? I'll stop. Feel free to ask questions throughout. I'm pretty sure that I should be able to get all of your questions done, and if I ask you to hold on that question, it just means I'm going to get to it a little bit later on. Any questions to start with? Great. All right, I'm going to skip this one and go straight to our next one, which is, why are we talking about something that has been talked about ad nauseum? How to present anything to anyone in 5 minutes. That's a pretty big challenge, isn't it? But how to present is something people have been talking about for a long time, right? There are books on it. There's videos on it. There's courses on it. There's adult education courses on it. So why are we all here talking about this again? Well, there must not be a winner out there. There must not be the magic bullet out there or the answer that solves that need for any time you have to present something and you have only 5 minutes. How do you do it? I'm going to give you some tools and tips and techniques that you can use here today. What you need to get your head around, though, is those 5 minutes are not about the movie. It's about the movie trailer. Why do the producers of movies produce these things? It's very simple, right? So you can watch it in 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes and decide if you want to go to that movie, or decide, nope, that's not the kind of movie I go to. Or what's the third? I'll tell my friends about that movie. That's what the trailer is for. And that is exactly what your 5-minute presentations are typically for. It's to turn a monologue into a dialogue. There's too much monologuing going on out there. Blah, 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 blah. And you put people to sleep with their eyes open. You can get it done in 5 minutes. Just about anything you want to say to somebody, anything you want to convince them of. 5 minutes is a long time. What's the average commercial on TV here in the United States? How many seconds? 30. So how many commercials in 5 minutes? 10. 10. Right? 5 times 10. So would any of you here sit in front of the TV and watch 10 commercials of the same thing? Back to back to back? Of course not. So really 5 minutes is it's 4.5 more minutes than you need to get people to take action. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, I'm not a PR firm. I'm not an advertiser. I don't know how to put together a 30-second convincing pitch to get people to take action, well, that's okay. That's a lot of pressure. We're only here to talk about 5 minutes. 30 seconds, that's a totally different ballgame. And that requires a totally different way of thinking. So, it's going to be simple here today. And I'm going to prove it to you right now how simple this really is and how most of you are overthinking this whole process of presenting and pitching. I'm going to put a sentence up here on the screen right now. I'd like you to read the sentence to yourself in silence, just the way you are right now, 1 time. That's it. Don't try to figure out what it means, because it really doesn't have a meaning. Just read it once. And if you have to stand up, like if you can't see it back there, just go ahead and move around so you can see it. Everybody happy? Got it in the back there? Can you read it okay there? All right. I'm going to take this sentence off the screen right now, and here's the exercise. I'm going to put that same sentence back up here, exactly what you were just looking at. And in silence, without talking to each other, I want you to find all of the F's in that sentence. Just count them. Okay? That's simple. I know you're looking on. This guy's looking on. This guy is from outer space, not just California. I just want you to count them when you have that. Just wave at me. Don't tell me the number. Just say, I got it. I got mine. I got my number. And then I'll kind of get a sense for everybody. That's the number. Are you ready? But remember, don't tell the person next to you what your number is, please. Ready? Go. Let me make this a little bit more fair. Yeah, I wanted to get the full word out from that little icon on the right-hand side. Okay, got it? Got it? Got it? Okay, good. You double check yourself, triple check yourself if you want. All right, everybody got their number? Okay, great. So I'm going to take it off the screen right now. And I'm going to ask, how many of you saw only 1? Good. 2. That's good. Now, how many of you saw 3? Show of hands. Why aren't all your hands up? There's more than 3? Were we all looking at the same thing? Okay, how about anybody see 4? Hands down. 5? Holy mackerel. Hands down. 6? Holy mackerel. Hands down. 7. Good. There were 6. And they were staring you in the face all the time. They are right there. If you got 4 or 5, I have to have a talk with you later on. I don't know why. If you get the 4th or the 5th one, you should get the 6th one. But there are these 2 little words here that you might have missed. Right there in front of you. And that's kind of the metaphor for presentations, is that there's so many things that you could be doing as a presenter that you're not, that are literally staring you right in the face. And then there are some things that perhaps you are doing that maybe you shouldn't be doing that are staring you right in the face. And hopefully some of those things will come to light in this talk. That's a great bar game, by the way. Just wait for them to have the drink. Take that little piece of paper out of your pocket and bet them. Ask them how many apps, and then say, oh, you see 3? Would you bet me? Yeah, go ahead, check it again. It works. They'll always see 3. All right, so I'm going to break this down into 3 categories. The first is what you say. Obviously, that's pretty important, right? What you say in your 5 minutes or 10 or I'm going to concentrate on just 5. The second part of your presentation is how you sound. The sound of your voice. And the third part is what do people see. And that's a combination of you and your slides or your demoware, whatever you're using. So I'm going to break it down into these 3 parts, and we'll start with the verbal. And I want to give you first 2 things that you need to think about if you're not already thinking about them. Whenever you have to present, the number 1 thing you need to ask yourself is, or get the answer to is, who's my audience? Right? That's a basic thing. If you don't know who your audience is, how do you know what to say unless you're just going to say and you don't care what they think? If you don't care what they think, then don't care about your audience. But most of the time, you usually want to show that you care about your audience, so you want to find out who they are, what types of people they are, so that you can gear your comments and your stories and your anecdotes towards those people. Right? The second goal that you need to, the second question you need to ask yourself is, what is your goal of that presentation? Sometimes it's just to inform, sometimes it's to persuade. Who knows? But you need to set your goal. If your goal is to get a referral, if your goal is to get the job, if your goal is to get some resources to do the project that you're thinking of doing, if your goal is to get funded for a startup, that's what your goal is. And you design your pitch or your presentation, whether it's 5 minutes, 3, 2, or whatever, around your goal. And you work backwards from there. Okay. So now you know the first 2 things I would ask you if you said, hey, can you coach me? I'd say, okay, who's the audience? And what's your goal? Normally my first 2 questions. And then we work from there. So let's go through some of the verbal things that you can do to up-level your presence in front of people. The first thing I want to share with you is a book that I picked up when I was in, I guess I was about 26 years old in 1983. And I was given this book because I had to go out and do a training class. And I had never done a training class before. But they gave me all these view foils and said, here you go do this training class. So I read this book. It was about 65 pages. And there was one chapter in this book that I have used in every single presentation, every product demo, every keynote, and I use it on you here today. And I promise you, if you do this with your audiences, I can guarantee you that you will start on a different playing field. And it's called the 6 signals that every audience needs to hear from you as a speaker, whether it's a one-on-one presentation or whether it's a one-on-100 like we have in the room here today. And I can vouch for this stuff, folks. The first thing on everybody's mind when they walk into a room like this is this going to be a waste of my time? Is it going to be done on time? Is it going to start on time? Does the person even respect my time? Time. What did I do to you in the beginning? Thank you for your time. Then what did I do? I said, we have until 4 o'clock. So in all of your minds, you should have felt really comfortable that, oh my God, this guy, okay, he's watching the clock, and I'm going to get out of here at 4, and I can get on to my day, and okay, give it to me. Serve it up. Did you feel like that? Mm-hmm. Feel more positive? It's a trick, but it works, because there's no trick to promising somebody that their time is going to be well spent, except if you don't do it. You don't live up to the promise. But hopefully I will live up to that promise. Have I lived up to the promise so far? Okay. Right answer. So you want to make sure to let people know in certain terms that whatever you're going to do with them in the time that you have is not going to be a waste of their time. The room was all set up before you walked in here. We had one mistake in here, and that is I normally like to get set up with all of my kit here before anybody comes into the room. All right, it wasn't too messed up and everything seemed to work okay, but normally that would all be set up before you even walked in the room. So thank you to the organizers for getting the room all set up nicely, and it was only my fault for not getting here in enough time to get over here and set this up. Normally I'm here an hour before any of you show up, because there's so many things can go wrong when you set up your kit. I mean, just getting on the internet could be a problem. Number 2 is, you need to let the audience know that you know who they are. Did I cover this signal with you? No, I missed the signal. I should have said something like, according to my research, I understand many of you are in the military, or you're in academics, or you might just be from the general public. In any case, I welcome you here. Then you would have said, okay, he's talking to me. So I missed that signal, and I'll admit it to you. I missed that signal. I should have used it. I apologize. Number 3, you need to be well organized, not just in the military, but you need to be well organized. If you don't show that you are well organized and you got your stuff together, people will be less likely to want to give you the resources or work with you. Organized people get much more when it comes to asking for resources than people who are disorganized. So if you go to my house, you'll see I'm not that organized around my house, but when I walk in with my kit and I open up my bag, I know exactly where things are. All of my cables are all rolled up nicely, and you might think, oh, that's being a little anal. No, it's just showing to the audience that I'm organized, so that means hopefully this talk is organized. And there's nothing worse than a talk that's not organized, is there? Number 4, you need to let the audience know that you know your subject. Now, this is not a brag. This is not a pound your chest, read your CV or your resume to the audience in the beginning. But frankly, if I didn't get introduced here today, I'm just a man to you, right? If you didn't look up the internet and see who I am, and I walked up here and said, good afternoon, everybody. So what do you know about me? Nothing, except that I'm a man. That's it. Gray hair. That's all. So you need to establish your own credibility if somebody doesn't do it for you. It's lovely when somebody does it for you. Then you just get up there and start talking like I'm doing with you now. But if you don't get that, you need to come up with a 1 or 2 sentence answer to why you? Why should I trust you? What is it about you that makes you qualified to be talking to me about this? And all of you have qualifications. You just have to figure out what's the humble brag. I call it the humble brag. It's something like, before I coached TED speakers, where I got my first TED coaching assignment 6 years ago, I would say that I prepare people for high-stakes presentations, such as investor pitches, keynotes, and job interviews. Okay, all right. Now all I need to say is, I coach people for TED Talks. And I think most people would realize that that's a high-stakes opportunity. Can you imagine walking into a room, maybe twice the size of this, and right in front of you, you look down and there's Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Al Gore, and a whole bunch of other billionaires. I'm still trying to find a woman that sits in the front row who's a billionaire. I'll get that name one of these days. That's high-stakes stuff. So you need techniques, you need ways to handle that sort of a situation. And if you can prepare people for that situation, hopefully you have the credit to prepare people for just about any high-stakes situation. And hopefully that was the link that you made in your head. And people told me years ago, stop with all the other stuff, just say TED, that's enough. You had me at hello is what they tell me. You got me at TED, that's enough. You don't have to say all that other stuff. Okay, great. Number 5, and this is a very important moment in every presentation. There are times when you want to get everybody listening. All you have to say is, I know I've covered a lot here today, ladies and gentlemen, but here is my most important point, or something of that flavor. I know I've covered a lot here, but if you take only one thing away from my presentation today, here it is. And then everybody stops whatever they're doing, next page, clear slate, tell me what it is you want me to remember. Now you can only do this once. You can have 7 important points as a frame for your talk, but you can only have 1 of these. And then please make sure that your audience knows that you are done. You need to let the audience know that you're finished. I see presentations end like this all the time. And so in order for us to grow or scale, we need introductions to the healthcare partner so that we can grow our business. Oh yes, I'm done. Any questions? What are the 2 words that you can use to let every audience know that you're finished?
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Then you be quiet. Everybody knows you're done. So don't leave off that thank you unless there's that moment at the end where you actually want that silence to let whatever your message is that you have just said resonate a little bit, and then you look at them and say, thank you. And then you move into the Q&A. But these are the 6 signals. I promise you, if you start integrating these into your talks, your presentations, your training classes, your product demos, your job interviews, you will start to see that this is a very nice, simple little kind of rubric that you can use when you have to introduce yourself or when you need to get audience's attention or just set the stage. And if you do not use any of these 6 signals, then number 1 is the most important. I mean, if you don't use all of them, the number 1, that's the one that's most important. Because you never know what could have happened. You make a meeting with somebody, you show up at their office and you think you have an hour, and then 10 after is when it starts, and now you have 50 minutes, and you don't know if you can go all the way to the hour. And if all you did was ask, say, I'm just curious, do we still have until the top of the hour for our meeting? And they say, oh, thanks for asking. As a matter of fact, we need to get to a really important meeting down the block. If you can finish up 5 minutes early, that would really save the day. And guess what? You've just saved the day. By just asking, is this the time that we still have still there? And if they say yes, then you're fine. Okay? Time is really, really valuable and important. So I'm going to slant most of the examples that I'm going to talk about here in terms of the verbal, the vocal, and the visual aspects of presentations, not necessarily towards this kind of a presentation, because these are kind of, I'm sorry, but these are kind of boring. You can always make them more fun, and there are tools out there that you can involve your audience a little bit more. So if you have just an informational presentation where you're throwing out all this information and hoping people get it, you can gamify that now, you know that? You can gamify getting your audience involved in maybe guessing. Like you do some research and you say, well, before I tell you the results of the research, what do you think the answer would be if we did A, B, C, and D? Go ahead and vote. And everybody says, how do you vote? You pick up your smartphone, you go to this address, and you vote. There's tools out there to do this. There are tools to get your audience engaged. So if you are one of these research kind of people and all you do is just give information and it's boring, stop being boring. Give the audience the chance to interact with you and your data. And one of the best tools on the planet for that is a product called Kahoot. K-A-H-O-O-T. It's a Norwegian company that is an amazing success. You want to get your audience involved and getting them competing and answering your questions faster than they would ever answer in a normal circumstance, look at Kahoot. If you want to poll your audience and ask them a question, or get them to just ask you questions without you saying you have to raise your hand to ask a question, there's products like Slido, S-L-I-D-O, Slido. You can put up a poll and everybody picks up their smartphones without installing an application. They go to a web address, there's a poll. The poll says, how many of you came from outside of Alabama? And all of you answer, and when I see the number gets close to like 75, 80 people, I've got my number. Put the number right up on the screen and share it with the audience. So there are tools to make your job as a presenter much easier and more effective no matter what kind of information you are sharing. Most of what I want to take you through now is about this. It's about persuasion. Because in most cases, unless you're in an academic situation, which I understand a good portion of you are, you're trying to be persuasive more than just passing information. So I'm here to suggest to you that if you are in this world, you can use what I'm going to share over here. Okay? So I'm going to give you two frameworks here. Two what I call magic frameworks. I put them together simply by doing this for 11 years. That's the one thing we forgot to mention. I've been doing this 11 years. So I've worked with tons of people, and they go out and they pitch, and then I debrief. What worked? What didn't work? So I've really honed this down, not to what's only in my head, but the results of the things I've been coaching people on, because I don't believe my own stuff sometimes either. Especially in the first few years. I was a real imposter, trying to become somebody who I thought I could be. So the magic framework I'm going to give you first is a 3-part rubric that you can use, or a 3-part frame that you can use for just about any situation where you have a 5-minute window to present. It's really simple. Didn't I tell you it would be simple today? It's really simple. The first thing you need to do, which most people don't, is you need a hook and bait your audience. Meaning, get them interested, get them curious, get them leaning forward. Do you know when you get an audience in a curiosity state of mind, you're in essence giving them a drug. Dopamine starts happening, and that makes people feel something. So if you start getting people curious about what you're going to talk about, you're doing the right thing by getting their brains in a chemical state of existence that they'll actually pay more attention. Now, I'm not a brain expert by any standpoint, so if you ask me any details about what I just said, I won't be able to go any deeper. So let me take you through each of these. The first is getting them interested. The second is you need to prove to me in 5 minutes or less that whatever it is you want, whatever it is you're trying to do, whatever it is you need to prove to me that, yeah, get me to say yes, or get me to say, no, we don't want to do that, but let's do this. And then the third is you need to ask. You need to ask. Most people, when they do a persuasive presentation, they wait for the person on the other side of the table to ask them what they need. That's a mistake. Tell them what you need to grow or scale or get to the end of the project or get through the journey that you're asking them for the resources for. So I want to take you through each one of these because they're not that obvious when you break it down. I'm not big into fishing, but it's a great analogy for what we're doing when we're trying to decide what do we do with an audience? What kind of a hook? What kind of bait do I use? Well, just as you wouldn't use the same size hook to fish the different size or bait, I'm a little bit behind myself. You have to do the same thing with your audiences. You might get a really good hook that works with just about all audiences, but you might have to change how you talk about it depending on who's in the room. The little exercise we started with the F's, I do that in just about every single workshop I ever do, because it works in every workshop. But the reason I use it is a little bit different. The moral of the use of it is different. But it's a hook that is one of those that kind of works in most places. The only places it doesn't work is where English is not their first language. Sometimes if English is not your first language, they literally go letter by letter. And the ones who got 6 probably went letter by letter, or you're a proofreader and you went backwards and you knew there was a trick here, even something. Okay, so let's talk about what can you do to hook your audience. Let me give you 4 things you can do. There's tons of things you can do. Here are 4 basic things you can do. 1, ask them a question. But don't ask them a dumbass question. Like last year, I'm in this room in Silicon Valley, and a guy gets up on the stage and he says, this is last year. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you have a smartphone in your pockets here? Just curious. Are you kidding me? It's 2018 and you're asking about a smartphone. We all have at least one. Which was his point. The second question he asked, like we go, all right, I'll raise my hand. The second question was, now how many of you have more than one? One for personal and one for business? Show of hands. And only 3 people out of 300 raised their hands. To which he responded, well, those of you who have your hands down right now, I think you'll be making plans to stop by the mobile phone store on the way home. Here's why. Click. And he told them why. The why is not that important to the story, but the point is he had us hooked in the wrong way. He could have just said, in 2018, I'm pretty sure, I'm sure everybody in this room has at least one smartphone in their pocket, right? Rhetorical, you look for the nodding heads, okay, they're with me. Now, how many of you have more than one? One for business work. There's better, more effective ways. And what I mean by a dumbass question is don't ask something that is so obvious that people go, oh my God, is he really asking me that kind of a question? All right, I'll play along. Okay, so think about those questions you're asking. Try to make them generate some thoughts, some curiosity. That curiosity state of mind is what you're looking for. Don't make them feel like failures. But here's how a lot of people make people feel like failures with a question. So, but they don't even use a question. They say, for those of you who don't know, and then you tell everybody something that they don't know. So now I feel like a failure, right? And then for those of you who do know, now I feel like a failure because I don't know. So be careful of how you set yourself up. Sometimes just very basic English words that we're using with an audience are just sabotaging yourself and your message. So watch your questions. The second thing you can do is make a literal, blatant statement. At NASA, we help, well, back then, we helped put a man on the moon. The story goes that President John F. Kennedy in 1963 was touring NASA in Cape Canaveral. You can look this up. I don't make up stuff. And he stopped the tour and he walked over to the janitor and he said, sir, what do you do here at NASA? And the gentleman looked up and he said, sir, I'm helping to put a man on the moon. Pretty powerful statement, right? He didn't say I clean the floors, I dump the garbage out, things like that. That's the literal stuff that he does. But the high concept is what many of you need to get to sometimes when you're presenting what you're doing or your big vision. So perhaps being very, very literal. We have the cure for cancer. We have a way to get rid of the toxic chemicals and blah, blah, so that the earth, okay, you got me. Now let me hear more. The problem with being literal sometimes is it's really boring. Let me give you an example. I'll get to that example in a second. The third way you can absolutely hook an audience is with a number or some statistics that they have not heard before. And that's key. Because what we're seeing is that if, let's say you're in the IoT world, the Internet of Things, right, as an example, Anybody pitching in that world says things like this. By the year 2025, you probably don't know this, but by the year 2025, we're going to have 2 billion devices connected on the internet. That's what everybody said. So how much impact is that going to be if they've heard it 2 or 3 or 4 times before? None, right? So check the numbers that you're using. If they're really easy to find, the likelihood is other people are using them, and if they are, try to figure out a way you can extrapolate something out of that number so that it stands out in the mind of your audience the way you want it to, not the way everybody else is doing. And then, the way to take something that's boring and turn it into something exciting. I like acronyms. I hear the military loves acronyms too, right? So here's my acronym for the militaries. SAM. SAM is one of your best friends when it comes to something you're trying to communicate to an audience where it's complex, maybe it's a little boring, or perhaps they just have no idea what you're talking about. So here's an example. How many of you have been on this airplane? It's the one where you get to feel microgravity without going into space. Would you like to go? Come on. It'd be fun. I mean, look, they're going to be a lot of fun at the end of the trip. You get to do these arcs, and when it's coming over the arc, you get about 20-25 seconds of free floating. So they do experiments up there that they don't have to do on the International Space Station and things like that. Of course, at the end of the trip, you always have to have some fun with weightlessness. So what do you think it feels like? When they hit this moment where they're weightless, what do you think that feels like? Something we've all done on Earth. Not a mental feeling, a physical feeling. Something physical. Anybody? Swimming. Swimming. Thank you. That's it. We got it. Swimming. So this feels like swimming. And I've talked to 2 people who've been up there. And I said, what did it feel like? They say, swimming. Okay, great. So now here you go. I'm a PhD. I'm not. Let's say I'm a PhD and my specialty is microgravity. That's what I spend my life on. I walk into a room like this and I look around and say, uh-oh, microgravity. How am I going to get these people to understand what microgravity is? Well, I guess I could go into the details. Let me give you the scientific background on microgravity. No, he's already shaking his head. No, please don't. Please don't. That's exactly right. That's what your audiences are saying to you. Please stop. Don't. No amount of time is going to allow you to educate me on something as complicated as microgravity. But if all I said to you was, ladies and gentlemen, I could spend hours helping you understand the details behind microgravity. It's been my life for the last 20, 25 years. But for today, why don't we just all agree that when you reach this state of feeling weightless, it's just like floating in a pool or swimming. Everybody done that? Okay. So now you know what it feels like. If you're wondering what it feels like, now you know. Now I could use scientific terms and I can tell you how microgravity affects your brain and your arteries and your blood flow and all that stuff, but what's the point? Just say it's like swimming. And I see that gentleman's looking at me like, no, I cannot be that simple. You can't dumb things down like that. I'm putting words in your mouth. You can't dumb things down like that? Why not? I wouldn't do that if I had a full room of PhDs in the room. I wouldn't do that. Let me give you a better example that will drive the point home without question. There's a lot of pitching going on in the startup world out there around the world where people jump up on stage in 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. They pitch what they're doing so they can get investors or partners to come up and say, hey, I want to work with you. So this guy jumps up on stage about 6 years ago and he says, ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled to be here to share with you the machines that we build that turn water into money. And that's right. And right up on the screen, he puts this thing. He says, this is what we built. It's about 1 meter long. Under those yellow housings are micro turbines. You throw that thing into any rushing waterway, you tie it off to the side, you plug it in, and then you're generating free electricity as soon as those flappers start flapping. Free electricity. So does he build a machine that turns water into money? I'm asking, does he build a machine that turns water into money? Not literally, of course not. I'll give you water to wine if you're religious. That's been proven. But water to money? No, of course not. But some of you, I can see your head, you're going, some of you went like this. Usually, okay, that's me. And some of you went like, and why did that happen? Because we used SAM. What's SAM? Similes, analogies, and metaphors. When you use similes, analogies, and metaphors with your audience, when they're appropriate, when they're relevant, they stick like glue. Now let me change the presentation with the guy that makes the machine that turns water into money. Start the way most people would start. I'm going to be literal now. See if you get the same reaction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to be here to share with you our canal turbines. Want to know more? Because that's what they are. If you want to buy one of these things, you got to go and Google canal. You got to Google canal turbines. They come in all shapes and sizes, anything from this small to big ocean size to generate free electricity. But canal turbines, that might be what you're doing, is a canal turbine. Well, it's kind of boring. So up your game by perhaps picking a good simile, analogy, or metaphor. You know, the truth is we live life by metaphor. So why not use metaphors in your business situations? There's one warning I want to give you about similes, analogies, and metaphors. Sometimes they're culturally sensitive, or perhaps they might be unknown in the environment you're using them in. So be careful of testing them to be sure that they are resonating with your audience. Otherwise, you might have to tack on the meaning at the end of it. Okay. All right. So that's the hook and the bait. I know that was a long time just to get through the hook and bait. Now, the reason I spent that much time on it was because most people spend no time on the hook and the bait. And they just say, hey, good morning, my name is Nathan Gold, I'm the founder of blah, 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 and I'm here to talk to you about blah, 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 and here's my agenda, I'm going to talk about blah, 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 and it's like, oh, no, not another one of these. Right? Most talks start out like that. You don't really need an agenda slide. Did you ever see Steve Jobs use an agenda slide? No. He always gave a verbal agenda. When he did the commencement speech at Stanford, he had no slides. He stood up there and said, if you've heard the talk, it starts out very simple. Good afternoon. I have 3 stories I want to share with you here today. The first one, boom, and he tells the story, and then the second, and the third one. So that's Steve Jobs talks. But when you tell an audience you have 3 things you want to share, that's a hook. They go, okay, great. They just gave me the frame for what they're going to be talking to me about. How are we doing? Do you have any questions before I move into the proof? It's a little warm in here, so I know that perhaps you might need a little bit of a break here pretty soon, but if I give you a break, we'll never get done on time. How about this? Could you all please stand up? And then stretch your arms any direction you want, just don't hit the person next to you. And take a couple of deep breaths while you're standing. Please fill up those lungs with some good air. All right. And then please have a seat. And that was our break. So if you need a bio break, please just go ahead and go. I'm not going to take a break. And then I'll stick around for questions. So now we're into the middle part of the presentation, which is the proof. I call it proof because if you went fishing and you called home and said, hey, I got dinner, and you came home empty-handed, that's no proof, is it? Okay. All right, so now I want to go back to 2009 when Simon Sinek did a talk in Seattle at TEDx. How many of you have seen this talk? Beautiful. Good number. So this is a talk called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. And it became extremely famous because it's based on science and research. It's not just hearsay. It's not just his ideas. But he made the world understand that if you want to connect with an audience on an emotional level versus on a cerebral level, you start with your why, not with your what. And I'm not going to tell you all about this right now because I want you to go watch the video again or watch it if you've not seen it. It's an 18-minute talk. In fact, it is the #1 TED Talk in the world. It has the most views on TED, on TEDx, on YouTube, and a whole bunch of other places. I started adding up all the numbers one day just to see how many views of this video there were. But you'll get it. You'll get it in 18 minutes. You go, wow, that makes so much sense. And then you, as a presenter, can start using this technique in your presentations. And then you have the unfair, or I guess I'll call it the fair advantage of knowing how to connect with your audience on an emotional level. Because when you start with your why, you move to how, and then you move out to what, It automatically happens. The why and the how is talking to the limbic brain, that part where you say, you know, I don't get a good feeling about this. That's your limbic brain, and that's what these guys are talking to. Out here is, do I want to buy this? No, I don't like it. It doesn't have enough features, and so forth and so on. So what I'm going to suggest we do here is use the golden circle in the proof. I don't need to make anything up here. It's a beautiful rubric. The why, if you're describing a problem that you're about to solve, the why is your problem. So we're putting a man on, we're building a machine that turns water into money. Why do we need that? Because, and then you say your reason, and that's the problem. Then you move to the how. Here's how we're going to solve that problem. Here's our solution. And once you show us the solution, you finish up with what are the results. Most people think this is the solution. It's not. It's what are the results of your why. So in looking at the what, I'll give you a few things that you can put in there to help build the proof around the fact that it's not just me thinking my idea is great or me thinking this way of doing things is great, but you're going to point to this as validation coming from the outside, not the inside. So one way you can prove that what you're doing is more believable than what you're saying is to talk about your customers, your partners, your proof of concept, your minimum viable product, and the results that you're getting from people, and your conversations with people, or some information that you've gotten from your relationships with people, because these are the people that are going to either use your product or your service or your cause, right? Does anybody know what MLP stands for in the startup world? It's a new term that's starting to be socialized around. This stands for minimum viable product. If you're new to that, that just means it's the least amount of functionality you can provide in your solution, whether it's hardware or software. Least amount, so that people can try it and tell you whether they will even use it. It's not build out the whole thing and see whether they'll use it. You put 2 buttons. Could you try this and see what people say? So what does MLP stand for? Anybody know? Hasn't reached this far yet?
Legal?
Sorry?
Minimum legal product?
No, not legal. It's actually one up from this. It's called the minimum lovable product. Yeah, don't get too excited about it. I'm not that excited about it either, but apparently people are using this as a way to prove to investors that people just don't like it. They don't just like our MVP, they love it. And when they love it, that means they want to use it even more, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it could be a little bit of a persuasion term that you use if you are presenting to investors in the VC world or in the angel world or even in the institutional world. That's okay. I'm going to give you 5 things here. The second thing, when you're proving to your audience that it's viable, that whatever you want to do is viable, your product or your service, your proof. You're here telling me about it. You've given up your life, or you've dedicated your life to doing this, or at least the last bunch of months or years or however much time. So you're proof. So you can talk about yourself. If you haven't established your own credibility yet, now's a good time to do that. Your team is also part of the proof. If you've been able to attract people to your cause, to your project, to your business, to your team, that whole team becomes a very strong proof. Now look at all the people I've been able to attract to this, whether that's an internal team, an external team, advisory team, friends and family, all of it adds up to more proof. Now you don't have to use all of these, you just pick the pieces that you need, because you can't cover all of this stuff in 5 minutes. You just cover the pieces that you need. Another part of the proof is some of the technologies that you're working on can be patented or protected. And if you can get a patent or a provisional patent or patent pending on whatever you're working on, that is more proof that the lawyers were able to determine that you can compete against other products and services out there by filing this patent. Now, the patent doesn't protect you from people copying you, of course. It only protects you if you go after those people. But it does prove to investors that if you were able to patent it, that means it's probably something that attorneys have worked with you on, and now you at least have that in your hand, so you can use that to go after anybody that happens to replicate, back re-engineer, or reverse engineer your technology. And then the fifth is if you've raised any money, or if you've had any money or resources already put in on your project or your business, that's proof, right? Whether it's your own money, your friend's money, your family's money, your company's money, or your command's money. I mean, you're always using somebody's money to do what you're doing. So if you've already raised money to get to a certain point, it's okay to talk about, well, to get to this point, we've spent $250,000, we need another $250,000 to get to this point. That proves that you're able to generate the resources that you need in order to make these things come true. And if you happen to have won any awards in any pitch events, like on Tuesday night, if you come in first, second, or third place, those are usually worth bragging about. And by the way, 10-second commercial, if you hire me to help you get ready for a high-stakes situation where there's a competitive situation, I guarantee you I will help you win, place, or show. First, second, or third place, or I don't charge you. Fair enough. So, there's your proof. It's all about picking which of these 5 things you want to integrate into this section of the talk so that you can get them hooked, and then you cover your problem and your solution, followed by the results. And now, there's only one thing left. Your ask. Your ask is, what do you need? That's the simple question. What do you need? Do you need money? Do you need time off? Do you need a hug? I don't know. But if you don't tell your audience what you need in a persuasion environment, in an information environment, you don't have to tell the audience what you need. You're just giving them information. But in a persuasion environment, if you don't, in a persuasion pitch, if you don't tell them what you need at the end, then you leave it up to them to guess. And it might be obvious, but often if you're very specific, it makes it easier for your audience to act. It may not necessarily be the case in every situation, but I can tell you that when you ask for something, human nature will tell you that if you are a likable person, there's a better chance you'll get what you're asking for than if you're not a likable person. And we can all work on our likability factor. I'm not suggesting you go buy this book, but I like the name of the book. Because I just wanted to remind you, we can all work on our likability factor. And as you increase your likability factor, you'll increase your ability to be more persuasive as well. And people will generally want to be around you, they'll want to do business with you, they'll want to participate in meetings with you if you are more likable. Now I get it. Some of you say, yeah, but I just got business. I don't care whether they like me or not. And that's okay if you're a general. But when you're like us, you'll get more done if you're just more likable. What did Google do? A 5-year research, a 3-year research to find out what it is that makes a good working environment? Came up with one word. Does anybody know that word? You haven't read this study yet? They said, just be nice. If you just be nice, we'll have a better working environment. And they spent 3 years to come up with that. So that's it. That's magic framework number 1. Now, it doesn't apply to everything, but you can hopefully see that by just taking Simon Sinek's golden circle and slapping a hook around it and an ass below it, you've got a ready-made, provable path to take people on that should get them connected to you on an emotional level. If you do it well. I want you to get another one. Because sometimes you don't have maybe even 5 minutes. Now you can use this one for 5 minutes, but this one can be used for something even shorter. Wouldn't it be fun if you do it even shorter? Okay, so here it is. 3 questions for magic framework number 2. And it doesn't apply everywhere, but it could apply in many situations. First, what are you working on? Or what is your product? What is your service? What does your company do? What is your cause? Whatever that is, that's the first question. This is something you do in an Uber car. You get in an Uber car and you're on your way to the airport and there's somebody else sitting in the car and they look at your badge that you forgot to take off from the event you just came from and they say, so, what do you do there at such and such a company? Oh, I didn't realize they still had it. So, here you go. What are you working on? What do you do? Second question, who cares? Literally, this is the question people have in their mind when you tell them, oh, we're making this beautiful new blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, that's nice, but who cares? And it's not like I don't care. It's like, really, who cares? Like, who would use it? A lot of the time when we tell people what we do, we don't have no idea who would even use it or where it even applies. And that's why this question has to come second. Who cares? Oh, okay, they care. And then the last thing is, why should I care? That's it. That's really it. If you know who they are, you can tell them why they should care. If it's an environmental impact thing you're talking about, we should all care. If you're going to produce electricity using nanotechnology and you won't have to use rare earth materials anymore, I think I would care. I would want to know more about that. That's by the way. I'm working with an Icelandic company right now that has invented a nanoparticle that can store energy and replace all of our batteries that we use. No rare earth, charged really quickly, no explosions, and it can be formed into any shape. So imagine that. You can now take the body of your car and everything metal on the car, underneath the paint, they spray all these nanoparticles. So now your door and your hood and your frame, it's all a battery. It doesn't look like a battery, like we know batteries today, but it's storing the energy. The whole ship hull in Norway, they're making the entire ship hull into a battery by spraying zillions of these nanoparticles on, and then they can drive a car from San Francisco to New York on a single charge. How about that? Not far off. He created a prototype. It's about like 12 inches by 8 inches, and he put it on a plastic car, and you can drive it around for about 5 minutes to show you that it really does work. Now he has to scale it. But it's here. It's not far off. We all care about that. That's my life. I get to talk to all these wonderful, exciting people all the time. Okay, so those are the magic frameworks. I think we now need to move on to the last two parts, which is how you sound and what people see. I spent a lot of time on the vocal part because that's where most of you spend your time, is on the vocal part. I'm sorry, on the words, on the vocal part. Now, the verbal. Okay, so let's talk about how you sound. Now, how many of you in the room here have a radio voice? Not a face for radio, I get that. A voice that when people listen to you talk, they go, wow, have people told you that before?
I've got it a couple times, I have a voice for radio.
Yeah, you have a voice for radio.
Yes, and
So,
a face apparently as well.
that's the joke, yeah. But the serious part of that is your voice. You have a gift that your voice resonates, and it's not just men. Women have beautiful radio voices too, where when you speak in your normal tone of voice, it's just like keep talking. Now, there's very few people in the world that have that. So, if you have it good, that's nice. This is not my normal voice, not my normal tone of voice I'm using with you here today. If it was, and I was at home with my wife, she would be upstairs and I would be downstairs. She would not be in the same room with me because this is not the voice that I would want to use in a room like that with her. So if I had a radio voice, it would be very different. So if you don't have a radio voice, there's lots of things you can do to your voice to make it sound more compelling, more interesting, more trustworthy. And I'll just say you need to find your voice. How do you find your voice? Well, there's a couple things you can do. First is recognize that you have a lot of control over your voice, if you only took control. And it's about variety. If you offer your audiences variety in the way you talk, they'll stay more engaged with you for those 5 minutes, or perhaps 50 minutes, or maybe even 5 hours. You have tons of things you can do with your voice. These are just 6 different things that you can play with when you're speaking. And some of them have nothing to do with the sound. It's more, well, that's not exactly right. It's like you emphasize. When you emphasize a word or a phrase, it brings more meaning to it. As opposed to if you just emphasize a word or phrase, it brings no meaning to any words in the sentence. I just want to get all those words out on the floor as quickly as I can so that you all can get out of here and I can go home. That's not how you present. You put pauses and emphasis and delays and raise the volume, lower the volume, get excited, move towards your audience. That's what makes an excellent speaker, somebody that uses variety in the way they speak. Another part of speaking is one thing to separate most speakers from the ones that you remember are the ones that bring enthusiasm to the table, to the stage. The ones that are most enthusiastic, and I mean the ones that are honest and authentic about their enthusiasm, you can call it passion if you want. When you demonstrate that you're enthusiastic about what you're doing and it looks believable and sounds believable, do I sound believable? Okay. Then you will get people to take action more often. Your enthusiasm comes from your voice. The sound of your voice is where most of the enthusiasm is received by your audience. The visual aspects as well. But when you're speaking, that's where you can transfer your enthusiasm to your audience. And frankly, that's my number one goal. Every time I get up in front of people, my number one goal is I want to transfer my enthusiasm for what I'm doing to you. And I shouldn't need more than about a minute to do that. So far, we've got over an hour on working on that. Still another half an hour. Are we there yet? Close. All right. And then the final part of the vocal is not saying anything. Is actually pausing. Most people are uncomfortable pausing in front of people. But you know what a pause can do? Cool. You want your audience to feel something, give them a chance to actually think about it before you talk over it. Kind of just like that. Right? And people start wondering, okay, what's next? You're getting them back into a curious state of mind. Pausing is the secret to getting people back into a curious state of mind. You want that dopamine to start going again? Just be quiet. For an inordinate amount of time, people go, what's going on? Oh, okay, ready. So pausing also shows that you're confident enough to pick up your feet. And if you pause before you answer questions to anyone in the room who asks a question, you're showing them tremendous respect that you're willing to pause before you answer that question, even if you've heard that question 1,000 times before. The final part of the talk here today is about visual, which is what people see. Now there's two parts to the visual. There's the slides, and then there's you. Let's talk about slides. This is crap. But yet, this is what we do to audiences all the time. So I know this is a bad practice, but I'll do it anyway. We have too much text on your slides. They are unreadable graphs. We lost control of the formatting. This is how people present. It's like, what are we, dumb or stupid? We've already read your slide. Can you get to something that's not on your slide, please? These are 4x3 slides. That's like old, folks. I don't think anybody's using projectors or LCD panels that can't handle 16x9 anymore. Get rid of these black lines on the side and use the real estate. This is bad. This is a giveaway slide. This is not a presentation slide. This is a put you to sleep slide. This is I'm not prepared, so I'm going to cheat and read my slide. The way you take this slide and turn it into a presentation slide, get rid of most of the words. Here's another one. There's too much. Oh, you know what I called it earlier. If you're showing how sand mining is done, why crap it up with all these words? Just show video. By the way, if you can show video in your presentations, even with no sound, show video. There's not enough stuff moving around on slides up here. So it's much easier to play video today. There's YouTube that now allows you to download videos to play offline if you pay them, so you can have everything run without being online. But I'm here to suggest to you there's a simple way to get away from putting all that stuff on your slides, except in an environment where the people in the room are expecting it. I've had people say, well, I can't thin out my slides because the people in the room will get angry with me. They want all that data. Okay, fine. If they want all that data, then hand them the deck that has all that data on it, but duplicate that deck and get rid of all the stuff and just leave the main things, the picture, the number, the stat, or whatever you want, so that you can talk to the slide, as opposed to have the slide tell you what to say. So you just need two decks. The one you give away, and the one you perform with. This is a performance slide. This is a slide you use when you're presenting, right? But I don't want to put all the other stuff on here. And and 16 by 9. Be sure you spread out your themes to 16 by 9. Okay, so now let's move to what do people see. When does the presentation start? Sorry? On time. Thank you.
When you walk in.
When you walk in. Thank you very much. That is exactly right. Well, that was the answer I was looking for. Is when you walk in. So don't think for a minute that people aren't already looking at you once they know you're the presenter. They're going to be judging you. They're going to be watching you. They're going to be looking at whether you're organized, whether you're starting on time, whether you know who I am. Those signals that we talked about at the beginning. And whatever you're wearing, how you're walking, how you're interacting with people in that room, they are going to judge you. And that's just a fact of life. You can't stop people from judging you. So, everybody know who this is? The Undertaker. Now, I'm not a big WrestleMania fan. I don't believe that it's anyway. Can you imagine the Undertaker walking in with a pair of white shorts? Here I am, I'm the Undertaker. It's like, no, it's just incongruent, right? It just doesn't make sense. So he's wearing and looking the part. The analogy is when you go to present, wear and look the part. If you slump up there and you got bad posture and you don't care about what you're doing, then your audience isn't going to care either. They'll probably slip out the back door as quickly as they can. So remember, people are watching you from the minute you walk in the door to set up your kit and get ready to present. It's really important, no matter what you're talking about, death, destruction, bombs, whatever, you can always start and end with a smile. You should be happy to be there, hopefully. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so thrilled to be here to share with you this incredible discovery that we've had. Okay, now you can get serious on it. But at least start with a smile. People who start with a smile are more likable than people who don't. Wouldn't you rather people think of you as a more likable presenter immediately than not? I mean, this can all help and work in your favor, so a little bit of a smile is okay. At the end, I'll give up the smile at the end if it's death and destruction and you want to end on a sad note, that's okay. But you can always smile at the beginning. Facial expressions are underutilized for most people. If you've ever seen yourself in a video, and you should see yourselves in a video, it's very interesting. It's much different than listening to yourself, your audio recording. It's very different, because actually it's orders of magnitude different. And you look at yourself presenting, if the only thing on your face is moving is your lip, or your lips, then you know you're missing out a big piece of how you could be communicating with your audience. Like, just open your eyes a little bit more when you tell me something that you're excited about, tells me you are really excited. As opposed to, yeah, I'm really excited about this new discovery that we have. Right? It just, come on, your facial expressions tell a lot about what's going on inside. Did you hear that? Your facial expressions tell the audience a lot about what's going on inside. And if you have no facial expressions, guess what they're thinking? Okay, you can fill in the end of that sentence. Eye contact. In our culture, you have to make eye contact to build trust. You don't have to stare people down and wait for them to blink kind of thing, unless you're playing a game. But you need to make eye contact with your audience. I've been sharing the love with the group in the back there. I haven't really been picking on any one person there, although I do get, I'm picking on Anna a little bit right now. I'm looking at her, but you all right around her don't know if I'm looking at you directly, and then I come over to this side of the room. So I am trying to make eye contact with everybody in the room to build that trust with you. And if you just present like Norwegians, 8 years ago I met my first Norwegian, and they get up to the front of the room and they say, yes, my name is Jostein Stensen, and I'm from Bergen, Norway, and I'm putting my eyes down because we're taught that to respect people, we look down. And that's not how you work in the States. If you come in that way to the States, people aren't going to trust you, right? So it's exactly opposite. Of course, cultural changes and adaptations have to be done. If you go to Norway, you might need to look down a little bit until you build that trust, but around here, you need to make eye contact. And then finally, the last thing is gestures. People always say, what do I do with my arms? Do nothing, or do whatever comes natural. There's no magic here. You do what comes natural. If you want to say, we have something that's really big. That's the wrong gesture. Right? Just, this is really big. Just use the right gestures, but some people call these gestures, like I'm doing right now, the reptilian gestures. So we keep our arms very tight to our sides like this, and then just the front part of our arms work. And if you see people doing that, what they're actually doing is hugging themselves. This is protecting a vulnerable spot in our bodies so that we just get really comfortable. So allow your arms to come away from your body and just gesture as whatever comes natural. I can't gesture with my right arm here, can I? Because I have to keep the microphone by my head. So that means done. One arm's gone. Now I have to use this arm, or I do what like a lot of speakers do. And you don't hear half the things that they're saying because they don't have the microphone anymore. So every situation can be a little bit different in terms of what you do with your gestures, but the bottom line is let people see the palms of your hands. Why? Because then they know you have no weapons in your hands. And that's where the handshake came from, by the way, back in Roman days. When you met your enemy, you'd have to roll up your sleeve and put your hand out, and it was like down here, and you would shake hands. And that proved that I didn't have a weapon in my hand. And that's graduated to when we stand up today and we shake hands like this. That's where it came from. Interesting little fact. Okay, so in conclusion, I have two more things I want to share with you, and I believe we have plenty of time to do it. And that is, the first is credibility. I find in general that most people do not like to talk about themselves. I don't know why. Maybe nobody's taught them how to do humble bragging. You all need 2 sentences to establish your credibility when you meet new people and they say, so who are you? I got your name, I got your gender, and I know what school you went to, but like, what else? Why should I trust you? Why should I believe you? You all need a way to establish credibility in a heartbeat. And I'm going to share with you what you can do to do that. From what I have seen and believe, and this is just my own belief, there are 4 areas that you need to work on to build and maintain credibility. The first is obvious. You need to have an expertise, or you have to have a specialty to offer, right? You don't have to be the only one, but you have to have a specialty or an expertise. That's given. That's one way to establish yourself as credible. Do you believe and trust everyone who's an expert? No. So that's the second leg of the 4-legged table. If you want to increase your credibility, you will work on your trustworthiness. Now, once you establish yourself as an expert or a specialty, you have a specialty, done. The rest of your life, people will believe that. But your trustworthiness, that's something that you can continually sustain and build for the rest of your life. You could break trust in a heartbeat. One thing you say in a presentation could make people say, oh, I don't trust you anymore. Even though you have the expertise and you built the trust before, you could say one thing, they go, wait a minute, no, that doesn't work. No, that's wrong. In fact, I just checked with Google and you're way off. Now you just broke your trust. So this is something that you continually work on. All right. How you walk, how you talk, how you answer questions, how you look at people, how you shake their hands, what you wear. All of that builds into this, how people see you as a trustworthy person. Third part of being a credible individual, especially these days, is you need to show that whatever you're doing is in some way, shape, or form in service to others. If it's just because you want to make $1 million and live a good life, you're not going to get that many people to join your cause or come to your business unless you're going to make them millionaires too. But generally speaking, speakers who are more credible show that they care. And if you do it in terms of others, it's even more credible. Does anybody want to guess what the last part of being credible is? It's the one that just adds the icing on the cake. Cake's fine without icing, isn't it? Sometimes it's okay, but the icing is what really bumps up your credibility. I've already used the word a couple of times here today. Anybody want to guess? Sorry?
Likability.
You're very close. It's very close to the likability, and it's the enthusiasm. When you put enthusiasm on top of your expertise, and you're trustworthy, and you care, and you're enthusiastic, you're unstoppable. You will become seen as a more credible speaker. People will take more action based on the things that you say if you build your credibility with at least these 4 things in mind. There's probably other distinctions that we could come up with to help you in your credibility, but I like the number 3. I couldn't get it done in 3, and I feel like a table is more balanced with 4 legs, so that's why I went to 4. There is a thing called the rule of 3. By the way, how many of you know about the rule of 3? A couple, 5, 6, 7 of you. Okay. So it comes from comedy and writing. Comedy uses the rule of 3 all the time, and they tell the joke of A and B, and then bang, C comes in, and C's the reason you laugh. In writing, when you write in a sentence and you put, we do things such as A, B, and C, when you put 3 things together, it's more easy for you to say, easier for you to remember, more melodic on the ears of your audience. So whenever you can put 3 things together, 3 things on a slide, 3 items on a slide, you'll be playing to the rule of 3. Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3. Location, location. There's a lot of examples. The 3 blind mice, the 3 musketeers, 3's everywhere in mind. And it's a really good number for our brains to be able to keep up with what you're doing in your talks. The final thing I want to talk about here is near and dear to my heart because it affects every single one of you in this room. I know it does. It affects me. And that is anxiety. We all have speaking anxiety. It's just a matter of to what degree. And usually the situation you find yourself in is going to have a lot to do with that anxiety. If you're presenting to generals, you might have a little bit different anxiety than if you're just presenting to, say, the people sitting at that table over there who might just be, director level kind of people in IBM. Very different, right? So how you manage that anxiety and how you, what I like to call, harness that anxiety is the key. It's always going to be with you. I'm here to suggest to you, if you don't feel any anxiety, you should not present. It probably means you don't care. Or you're so comfortable with the information that you'd rather be doing something else. And same thing as I don't care. So, inside, that anxiety is going to be there with you for the rest of your lives. So here's a couple things you can do to deal with that anxiety because it's real. The first thing you can do to help you with that anxiety is before you speak, before you walk up in front of people, is warm up your voice. You can do this outside, just walk up and down here and just say good morning, good morning, good morning, or just pick a song. I like to sing and hum in the shower. That's how I warm up my voice in the morning. Once I'm warmed up, I'm ready to go for the rest of the day. So if you don't warm up your voice and you're real quiet and you get up there, you might have to do something like, okay, just give me 30 seconds and I'll be right with you kind of thing. That's one way to start. Second, you need to remind yourself to do something very basic, which is breathe. I'm serious. When you have anxiety, any type of anxiety, but I'll just concentrate on speaker anxiety because I'm not a medical doctor. When you have speaking anxiety, one way to get control over that anxiety and harness it is to sit down and just take some deep breaths. And when you expel the breath, you would say, relax, relax. It's okay. The anxiety you're causing yourself is usually because you're predicting the future. When you start breathing, you're giving your body the oxygen it needs. When you're feeling anxiety, normally your body is breathing very shallow breaths, high up in the chest, or you're not breathing at all, which means you're next. I'm going to call on you to come up here next. And he goes, you've all had that experience because the body just reacts that way. But if you breathe through it, you'll survive. Now, I know for sure that there's a term called combat breathing and tactical breathing. If you have severe speaking anxiety, just look it up. They teach it to first responders, military, police, and fire. When stuff happens and you lose your senses, the only way to get them back is to literally sit down and breathe. Tactical breathing will help you get your senses back. Do you have to do that before you go up and speak? Maybe on a TED stage? You might. On this stage? Maybe not. I would need tactical breathing if I was going up on a TED stage. I'll tell you that. I would use it anyway, because it gives your body all that energy and oxygen that it needs. And then the last thing, the magic. This is what makes it so easy. You can forget about all this stuff, all the things the books say about see the audience naked or pick somebody friendly in the audience and just talk to them, all that stuff. Is just find a mood inducer that induces the right frame of mind literally in a heartbeat. And this is a psychology term for, anybody know what I'm talking about here? Music. Music. Find a piece of music. Stick your headphones on, and when you listen to that music, it lights you up. And when you play that music before you go to speak, whether it's in my head or through the headphone, it will light you up. The music I'm playing in my head right now, I can tell I'm standing differently, the hair on the back of my neck standing up. I'm playing the theme song from Rocky in my head right now. The first film, not the second one, the first one. The Gonna Fly Now, the Eye of the Tiger is the second one. Come on, get it right, folks. It's the Gonna Fly. I watched that 4 times in 1976, back to back to back. That movie has a metaphor for my life. I feel goosebumps when I play that music, and that gets me in the right frame of mind to speak to an audience without taking 30 seconds to warm up. So I encourage all of you to look into your brain, find a piece of music that as soon as you hear it, ooh, and then use that every time you go to speak. If you want to be in that ooh state. If you need to be more calm, then don't play that music. All right, and then just to quickly wrap up here so we're done on time, is my favorite quote from Bernard Ascension is that if you practice like you've never won, which is something people don't typically do, they don't practice. You need to practice out loud. If you don't practice, well, never mind. Practice like you've never won and perform like you've never lost. And you will improve your speaking ability. You'll be more persuasive. You'll get people to take more action. And the last thing to think about is a quote from a good friend of mine who's a TED coach, John Bates. Whenever he gets a script from a TED speaker, they always start like this. I, me, my, our, all of that I, me, my stuff. And he literally draws a big X through the script, and on top of it he says, make the audience the hero in your talk, not you. And so I don't know that that will apply in all of your situations, but I didn't come here for me today. I came here for you. And hopefully I've made you the hero in my talk today by giving you a whole bunch of things that you can maybe try or think about the next time you have to go to present. And if you keep that focus, that the audience is more important than you, you'll build more credibility, you'll get more people to take action, and you'll have more fun presenting because you do it with the right reason, for the right reasons. That's it. This is my QR code with my electronic business card. I don't travel with business cards anymore, so if you have an iPhone, I don't know if you know this, many people here in the US still don't know this. If you have an iPhone, you can open your camera. Don't take a picture. Don't take a picture. Just focus in on that QR code, and you'll get a pop-up right at the top of your browser. You press that, you'll see my business card. There's no app. If you have an Android device, you need to open up an Android app that reads QR codes, and you can do that as well.
Yep.
Maybe I can make this a little bigger for you. Is that possible? Can you reach it in the back of the room? Are you able to get it? Anybody try it in the back there? Yeah, okay, yeah, you can zoom right in and then you have it. So with that in mind, I just wanted to say how grateful I am for you giving me such amount of time, of your undivided attention. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. My network is vast, it's worldwide. I'm not bragging about it, but I'm making you the hero, which means if you link in with me, I will accept, even if we don't get a chance to shake hands and meet here today, because I'm a big believer, and it's not how many people I know, it's how many people know me. And if I can help you connect with anybody in my network, I will do it. You look into my network, if you see that guy, anybody you want to meet, just say, Nathan, I'd like to meet so-and-so. I'll say, tell me why. And you tell me why, I'll connect you. Because I'm a big believer in paying it forward. So with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for giving me your time here today. I'm going to finish up 5 minutes early so you can get to your next thing.
Awesome. Are you playing game? Yeah. Outstanding. That was really great. You'd like to come back? Do you want back? Outstanding. Yeah, there's a whole lot more. Listen, just spending a couple hours with him today is helping me tremendously. He's not joking about linking you in with other people. Within an hour, he's like, Eric, I need to link you in with these people in Kansas City. Okay, cool. So that's all great. Now listen, before you walk out the door, I have these cards right here. Now, there's two cards you really need to be walking away with. You need to be walking away with our pitch night cards, which I believe we have available for you. And these are the cards about what we do and what we offer at MGMWERX. When you take this card with you, read this card and go, you know what? This may help me. This may be something my organization, my school, my industry, whatever, could use some help with. And we want to help you with that. Now, I can't guarantee, because we are a smaller organization, that we're going to be able to get you immediately, and we'll get you as quickly as we can, and we'll see if we can bring some people together to help you out with whatever innovation ideas you have, whatever issues you have. Not personal issues, y'all. I can't help you, but I can help you perhaps with maybe some innovation or collaboration issues. Again, ladies and gentlemen, that is Nathan Gold. I'm Eric Garrison. This is MGMWERX. Thank you very much. Have a great day.